So, what do you get when you bolt a jet engine to a lawn dart and try to land it on a vertical wall using a hook? The Ryan X-13 Vertijet, of course. I'm Bill, and this is Buffalo Air Park. Let's dive in. Back in the 1950s, when the Cold War had everyone dreaming of doomsday-proof aircraft, the US military asked a simple question: what if our jets didn't need runways at all? That idea led to one of the weirdest and boldest experimental aircraft ever built, the Ryan X-13 Vertijet, a single-seat, delta-wing tail-sitter that could take off vertically, fly like a regular jet, then land vertically again, like a hummingbird with afterburners. This oddball started life thanks to some curious minds at Ryan Aeronautical. After World War II, they looked at their FR-1 Fireball, a hybrid piston jet fighter with pretty solid thrust to weight, and wondered, hey, could we make this thing take off straight up? The Navy was into it, dreaming of aircraft that could launch from tiny ships or even submarines, because nothing says tactical surprise like popping out of the ocean with a jet. Between 1947 and 1950, Ryan engineers ran tethered vertical takeoff tests. Then came a flying rig in 1951, and eventually a wild contraption nicknamed the Beast in the Backyard. Picture an open-air metal scaffold with a jet engine strapped inside. It looked like a kid's erector set project after a Red Bull-fueled redesign. But then the post-Korean War budget axe came down hard, and the Navy backed out. Just when things looked grim, the U.S. Air Force stepped in with a shiny new contract and a fresh designation, X-13. So, what did the final aircraft look like? Imagine a jet that's only about 24 feet long, just big enough for one very brave pilot. He didn't sit upright either. The seat was tilted 45 degrees forward to handle the vertical flight. Basically, you were flying on your back. It was powered by a single Rolls-Royce Avon turbojet, pumping out 10,000 pounds of thrust. The wings were short and stubby, with big flat plates at the tips. And forget normal flight controls. This thing used vectored thrusts for pitch and yaw, and little puffer jets out at the wingtips for roll. In hover mode, you were riding a column of pure engine blast. Now the landing system? Oh, you're gonna love this. The Vertijet didn't use a runway. It used a tilting flatbed trailer. No joke. The pilot would fly up to the trailer, nose up, and try to hook a wire trapeze with a tiny pole sticking out from the nose. Kind of like trying to back into a garage while flying a jet, in reverse, blindfolded. And yes, there was a guy on the ground talking to the pilot in over the radio because you couldn't actually see the trapeze from the cockpit. To help, they mounted a 20-foot measuring stick on the trailer to act like a glorified yardstick. I mean, that's real 1950s ingenuity right there. The first prototype flew conventionally in December 1955, using normal landing gear, mainly to check stability. Turns out, it wobbled like crazy. But after a few tweaks, yaw and roll dampers, it flew great. Then came the vertical test. On May 28, 1956, Ryan test pilot Peter Gerard pulled off the first full vertical takeoff and landing, just 50 feet up, but it worked. Then, on April 11, 1957, the second prototype made history, launched from the trailer, transitioned to horizontal flight, then back to vertical, and landed on the trapeze. Nailed it. They even flew it to Washington, D.C., and hovered it across the Potomac River to the Pentagon. There's a persistent rumor it ruined a rose garden, but the pilot said no, and the hedges were actually soaked with water ahead of time to avoid engine damage from flying leaves. No flowers were harmed in the making of this demo. But despite all that success, the Air Force pulled the plug in September 1957. Why? Well, the concept was cool, but impractical. It didn't offer any real advantages over existing aircraft, and runway-free jet ops just weren't a priority anymore. That said, the X-13 was a total success as a test platform. It proved that vertical takeoff and landing jet flight was absolutely possible. Its vectorizing nozzles and hovering control systems paved the way for future marvels like the Harrier jump jet and the modern F-35B. And if you squint just right, it might have even inspired SpaceX's rocket landings. Same idea, different century. Today, both X-13 prototypes survive. One lives at the San Diego Aerospace Museum, and the other is on display at the U.S. Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. So, next time someone tells you tail-sitting jets were a bad idea, tell them the X-13 Vertijet got there first, and it actually worked.